What are dating funnels and why do they matter? Well, in almost every area of life, strategy beats tactics. If you are doing the right general game plan, even if you don't do it particularly well, you'll usually do kind of okay. Whereas if you're doing a wrong game plan, you can bring tons and tons and tons of skill to it, and you may still struggle. Doing a dating funnel that is a valid, workable dating funnel that has a lot of upside possibility, and doing it, relatively well will crush doing a terrible dating funnel well, like hands down. Right. So for example, if you could do cold approach and become in the top 20% of cold approach versus being the absolute coolest guy in your high school and only dating girls that go to your high school, well, dating girls that go to your high school, you're limited to only the girls in your high school and you can probably date only one of them. Whereas if you're the guy who's pretty okay at cold approach, but not like the coolest guy ever, well, you have an infinite number, hundreds of millions of girls that you could, talk to and meet, and you're going to do pretty okay with a lot of them. Your dating life will be way better than the coolest guy in high school. Picking the right strategy matters tremendously. Or if you take online dating, the amount of girls available, the amount of girls that are doing online dating is a huge, huge, huge number that you're exposing yourself to the possibility of dating. So getting the right funnel matters. And when you look at funnels, there's definitely an array of criteria, right? So one criteria is how many women are in that funnel. Like what is the possible women you could meet? And some funnels are very lacking in terms of number of women and number of possibilities. Some are very abundant in terms of that. Another factor to consider when looking at funnels is how easy is it to meet the girls within that funnel. So a funnel like Night Game Cold Approach, you're starting from ground zero when you go talk to a girl. She doesn't know that much about you. Whereas if you did a social circle funnel where you're almost a celebrity in the social circle, well, when you walk up to a girl, or maybe when she comes up and talks to you, because you might not even have to do the approach, you're starting from a much easier position. And so actually converting that interaction into something becomes a lot easier, right? So there's pros and cons in terms of those different things. There's also factors with all these funnels, not just in terms of the quantity of girls, but also the quality of girls available within that. There's also personal factors, personal characteristics, like what are you best at, right? If you are a natural introvert, certain funnels will seem much more appealing to you and be much more viable to you. Whereas if you're a natural extrovert, other funnels may make more sense for you. So that's going to be a factor as well. But with that said, let's start breaking down the individual different dating funnels, talking about what their pros and their cons are. The first dating funnel I want to talk to you guys about is one that you guys may not even consider a funnel. We call this the normal guy funnel. The normal guy funnel basically means doing what the normal average guy does. And if you want an idea of whether this funnel is good and bad, first place to look is what are the dating results of the normal guy. And the normal guy is, the average guy is sleeping with somewhere between 0 and 10 women in his lifetime, something like that. I think 2 to 7 is an average range that I've heard before, something like that, which is not a lot. Right? And so the normal guy funnel is limited. And by the way, what do I mean by the normal guy funnel? By the normal guy funnel, I mean just basically living your life and meeting the girls you come into contact with. So from, ages 5 to 18, you're going to school and you're meeting the girls that you happen to have classes with, right? And then after work, after school, you go to college and you meet the girls that you meet randomly around campus. And then you go get a job and you meet the girls at work and you meet the girls that, happen to live in your apartment building, maybe sometimes if you even talk to them. So that's your funnel, right? That's the average guy funnel. And the appeal of the average guy funnel is that it's lazy, right? Is that you're not doing any extra work. You're essentially living your life and you're not putting extra work into women. You're not expending extra calories, extra mental strain on getting women. So that's essentially the appeal. The downside, of course, is many. There are many, many downsides of this. First downside is you're limited to the women who you naturally meet. So that's a problem. Second thing is when you meet those women, you don't really have an advantage, right? You have the same situation as any other guy in that funnel would. So if you're in school with a girl and she's in your class, well, you have the same advantage in meeting her as any other person in that class does, and also any other people in any of her other classes or her extracurriculars, etc. Right? So it's not a huge advantage. It is a slight advantage over a random person meeting her on the street because there is some established trust, and possibly if you're popular or okay in your life in general, some established social proof a little bit of having a good reputation. So there's a little bit of a benefit there if you do it right. And especially there's a benefit over a totally random stranger to some extent. But it's not a huge benefit. It's not like you're coming in as a celebrity. It's not like you're coming in with massive social proof and she has a huge crush on you or something like that. So this funnel tends to not work very well in practice. The other major problem with this funnel, maybe even a bigger problem than the lack of options and lack of specialness to you in the funnel, is actually the fact that you're not going to learn very fast, right? So in any funnel you do, having good game is going to matter. This is something I want to just explain to you guys. There is no funnel that allows you to completely suck with women and be unattractive and still succeed. Right? Even if your funnel was being famous, it would be hard to convert that fame if you have absolutely zero game or have like absolutely game that turns girls off. The problem here is that if all you've done in your entire life is normal guy funnel, you're not meeting that many women. You're not practicing with that many women. And when you do get to interact with women and practice with them, there's a lot of pressure on it. There's a lot of stress on it. You don't want to mess up. Also, there's social consequence to messing it up because you don't want to poison the pool that you're swimming in. You don't want to do something to turn off this girl and then have other girls get angry at you and ruin your chances there. And so you're probably learning to play way too safe, learning to not take risks, those types of things which are never going to really help you in your game. So overall, the normal guy funnel is pretty bad. Now, if you got really good at game and then happened in your normal life to meet girls, that could actually be fine. I'll give you a little anecdote about this. So growing up all the way through elementary school, middle school, high school, when there should be lots of opportunities for dating, I, as a shy, introverted guy who was not very good at dating, had exactly 0 girlfriends and exactly 1 date ever. So not really the best results. Fast forward to around 2008, 2009, something like that, when I had been doing game for about 8 years. And then I went and I played poker professionally. I was playing at a casino. And I was actually told specifically not to date girls at the casino. So I was not trying to do cold approach. I was not trying to start interactions or start relationships with any girls in the casino. But just by being at the casino without making any attempts, just by being me and me who had learned game for 8 years, I ended up sleeping with like the 4 hottest girls at the casino. And this was against the direct orders of my poker coaches and financial backers who forbade me from dating women at the casino. So just by like pure accident, playing normal guy game, I suddenly was having very good results with it. But it wasn't pure accident that happened. It was 8 years of consciously studying game and getting a skill set that then led me to dating those girls while I was there. Normal guy game is a great supplement because it is lazy and it requires nothing extra. But if that's all you ever do, your results are probably going to be very, very poor. The other thing I didn't mention is kind of implied, but about normal guy game is you can really only date one girl at a time, right? At least from any venue you're in. So if you're at school in a particular class, dating the girl in the class, you're not going to date 3 other girls in the class because that's going to come back to bite you in the ass. So you're very limited, not only in terms of the amount of women you can meet, but also the amount that you can date at one time. So again, your experience is going to be very, very slow. You're not going to build skill set very fast. Normal guy game is the standard for most guys. This is what most guys do, and this is a big part of why guys are frustrated because it's not a very good approach. It's not a very good approach for getting results, and it's an even worse approach for learning, which means that you're stagnant and not growing in your bad results. All right, so let's talk about some of the other funnels, the funnels you guys probably expected me to talk about a little more on here. The classic funnels that we're going to address are going to be day game, night game, online game, and social circle game. Let's start out with day game. Day game was where I started. It was my first love because at the time I started doing game, online game barely existed and there was a huge stigma against it. This is in the year 2000. And also I was too young to drink. So I started with day game. I started specifically with day game around my college campus, which is like the junction, I guess, of day game with normal guy game. But it was day game. I was going out explicitly doing approaches, explicitly going and talking to girls. And day game is absolutely beautiful because when you go from normal guy game to day game, instead of having just a few options, you essentially have unlimited options, right? That is an absolutely beautiful thing. So instead of it being like, oh, here's this one girl, and if she rejects me, that's my 6 months wasted because she was my 6-month crush and the girl I was, hoping for and pining for in my class. If you go do a cold approach in day game and it fails, well, you wait 2 minutes, another cute girl comes along and you do another cold approach and the first one doesn't even matter and you have another shot, right? And so even if your percentages aren't great, the fact that you can just have more opportunities, do more reps is wonderful. I mean, consider this, right? Let's say that you could, let's say that in normal guy game, you're going to, work on getting your crush to like you over a 6-month period. And let's say it's going to work half of the time. Well, that means that you're going to have one girl you can date per year on average, right? 6 months, half the time it's going to work, something like that. Let's say, on the other hand, you're going to do cold approach, and let's say you suck at cold approach. You suck at day game cold approach. You're going to get 1 in 100 to work out, which is a horrible ratio. Well, you can do 100 approaches very easily over a 10-day period. That means you're getting on average 1 new girlfriend every 10 days. So being terrible at day game cold approach versus being quite good at normal guy game, you're getting a new girlfriend 36 times more often, right? You're getting 36 times more women in your life from bad day game cold approach. That just shows how powerful having so many women available to you is, having that abundance. That is absolutely the beauty of cold approach, which is that you have so many women available that even if you suck at it, you almost can't help but get results. The other good thing with cold approach is that you're going to learn a lot faster because you're getting a lot more reps. And at first, you might not be great at it. So when I first started, I did not have sex right away. Right? I started getting better conversations that felt better to me. And then I started getting phone numbers occasionally. Then I started getting dates occasionally. And then eventually I started having sex with girls and getting relationships. But I was able to track my progress. And it was a very quick feedback loop where I try something, it works or it doesn't. I know it right away, and I can improve, and I can implement the new steps into my next game or into my next approach. So very, very much more efficient in that regard. So key benefits of day game, right? Number 1, every girl is in day game at some point. They're all available to you. Number 2 benefit of day game is that you're meeting girls by themselves for the most part. You can do groups in day game, and you should as you get good at it, but you actually have the opportunity to meet girls by themselves. And when girls are by themselves, number 1, they can go on a date with you right then and there. They can go home with you right then and there without social consequence. And also, you don't have to win over the friends, or you don't have this extra factor of if the friends don't like you, it doesn't work out, those kind of things. You have minimal chaos. You're able to just focus in on doing proper game with the girl at hand. And in fact, if I had a choice, like if you said you can meet a girl in any context in game, between day game, night game, online game, I would pick day game, right? My actual one, if I could meet a girl in any context in game, it'd be meeting her in the context of me already being a celebrity and her being my groupie. That would be the ideal, obviously. But in any neutral kind of environment where you're not starting with built-in value, day game would be my preference for meeting a girl. The downside of day game, though, and maybe the only real downside of day game, I guess the not having extra status to start with is a downside, but as you get good, that doesn't really matter. You're going to get status and get value in most of your interactions anyway. The major downside of day game is honestly that it takes time, right? It takes time sometimes to find the attractive women you want to. Like you can walk around sometimes in day game for 20 minutes, half an hour, especially as your standards get very high as you get good at game, and not find a girl who really, really appeals to you. So that's the major downside of day game. This can be mitigated obviously by going to good places. If you find good venues for day game, you can do much better. For example, I know one of the best places I ever found to do day game was there was a dance studio that then had a coffee shop on the bottom floor. And a lot of the dancers, when they're either coming to or from their dance practice, would be getting coffee or snacks or whatever in that coffee shop on the bottom floor. And you could just walk in there and talk to so many hot girls in a really, really good setting, right? Or another great venue is if you live in New York City, just on a warm day, going to any of the parks in New York City. There are so many hot girls walking around the park, enjoying the sun, that kind of stuff, that you won't have to walk around a lot in between sets. You're just going to find good abundance. Or New York City, like Soho, that area where all like the fashionable shops and kind of trendy clothes are. Again, there are places where you can mitigate this problem and you can get a lot of opportunity to talk to hot girls. So you can mitigate it. But as compared to, for example, night game or online game, the amount of time between interactions in day game is significantly more. So that is a downside. The other downside, I guess, of day game is that it is during the day when the sun is out, which has two problems. Number one, during the day, people oftentimes have places they're going and things they're doing, which means that you may have to take phone numbers and follow up, which is not the most fun part of game sometimes. So that's potentially a downside. And the other downside is that because it's daytime, if you are going to take a girl home same night, oftentimes it's a longer set. Oftentimes it's going to be you meet the girl, take her for coffee or a drink, then maybe one other venue, and then eventually take her home. And it could take hours, right? It might be a longer interaction. That said, when it does happen, it will be the most romantic, most beautiful interaction you've ever had in your life, and the most beautiful interaction she's ever had in her life, and she's likely to just fall instantly in love with you. So that's an upside. But yeah, like I said, day game is one of my absolute favorites. If I had a choice, like you could say you can meet a hot girl in one of three, either online, night game, or day game. Like you need to have her profile put in front of you, meet her in a bar, or see her in day game. I would pick day game hands down every single time. So I love day game, but those are the pros and cons of it. Next, let's talk about night game. So night game has a lot of the same benefits of day game in that there is tons and tons of opportunity to meet a lot of girls and to practice. In fact, even more so in night game than in day game, because the nightclub has done the job for you of curating women, especially if you go to not the most divey of bars and nightclubs. If you go to a place that has a little bit of selectivity, a little bit of, it takes something to get in, or there's a doorman excluding some of the weirdest guys, that kind of place. You're going to get the hot girls curated, brought to you, where you can go talk to a girl. If that doesn't work, you turn around, you talk to another girl, and there's almost no time in between. So in terms of getting reps, night game is amazing. In terms of taking girls home right then and there that night game is better than day game because it's already at nighttime and you've already selected for women who aren't busy doing something else. That's something I kind of alluded to but didn't directly mention in day game, is that during day game, sometimes the girl has somewhere to be, right? She's on her way to go back to work, or she's on her way to go run an errand or meet a friend. So sometimes that's why you have to just get a phone number. Whereas in night game, the girls are just out to have a good time. And so there's less stopping them from just making you part of that good time or going home with you right then and there. It's also already nighttime. So psychologically, the idea of going home with you same night seems more reasonable, etc. Also the fact that there's like drinking and partying involved. There's a little bit more of this sort of it just happened vibe. And I want to be very clear on that. So I'm by no means in any way recommending that getting girls drunk is the way you take them home. What I am saying is that when people are drinking and partying, there's less of a social stigma behind like just going home with someone. It's more like, hey, we were drinking, we're having fun together, and one thing just led to another. So in fact, a lot of times, you may just have one or two drinks. She just has one or two drinks. You're nowhere near drunk. But just the fact that you were partying together, that's in her blueprint for what makes sense in terms of sex happening. Just I want to make it very clear that it's not about intoxication. It's more about the cultural elements of alcohol that I'm talking about here. But those are all things in your favor. Things that are against you in night game. Number one, girls are usually with their friends. And even if the girl really likes you, the friends may not approve of it. They may not be okay with it. So you're going to have to learn to do groups. You're going to have to learn how to talk to girls in groups, which is kind of a benefit from a skill building standpoint, but it is annoying. Like as you get good at game, more often than not, the reason that you will not get a girl to go home with you or start a relationship with you will be not down to the girl. It'd be down to her friends dragging her away, or her friends not approving, or her friends being protective, or her friends demanding that she spend time with them because she came out with them and they wanted her time, whatever. So that's a major drawback of night game, is the fact that there are the friends and the groups involved. This also can be a benefit somewhat. When you talk to the absolute hottest girls, sometimes it's easier to approach them because they have friends with them. So sometimes really hot girls might reject you on a cold approach, whereas when you talk to them in a group with friends, if the friends like you, now that girl is sort of stuck in a conversation with you, even if she would have initially rejected you, and you have some time to convey your personality, convey your value, and you can actually win her over with that. So it can be a benefit. But on net, it's usually a negative. The other huge problems with night game is there's lots of distractions. There's, the girl wants to go see the DJ, or her other friends show up, or they have a plan to go to this bar and then another bar, and then now you're going to different venues. And the other thing in terms of distractions is, of course, there are other guys. It's much more rare that you're going to be talking to a girl in day game and some other guy's going to come talk to her. That's extremely rare. But in night game, you're talking to a girl and some other guy bumps into her at the bar and gets involved, or some other guy was talking to her early in the night and gets involved, or something along those lines. That's much more common. So there is more sort of competition with other guys. The guys usually most guys suck at game. Most guys are not that strong a competition, but it does exist to some extent. And also the issue is because the girls are getting approached by more guys, you don't get as many points just for approaching, right? When I first started out in day game, I didn't really know how to attract women. I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of actively making a woman like me. But the very fact that I walked up and did the approach and showed that boldness actually helped a little bit, because I got some points just for trying. It just was unexpected, and it clearly showed that I wasn't a totally timid guy. Whereas in night game, you get less credit for that. because it's just more expected. People are talking to people, and also they might think, oh, he's drunk. It doesn't require that much courage, etc. So you lose some of those points. Now, at a high level, you shouldn't be relying on that anyway, but it is a factor on some level. So again, night game I absolutely love as well as day game. Night game I think is in a lot of ways the most fun to do because you don't have that downtime in between, and because if you have a good interaction, it really does have the possibility of going all the way right then and there. There is less overall connection typically in a night game interaction than in a day game interaction because it's more superficial. You're talking over loud music. That's another drawback of night game potentially. Loud music does happen often, but you're unable to have as deep of a conversation. But on the other side, you can get more physical more quickly. Things can happen more quickly, and you're going to have a lot of adventures. I know that going out and doing night game has led to some of the most fun stories of my life. Particularly, for example, living in Las Vegas for a while, like some crazy stuff happened in night game in Las Vegas for me. So night game's a ton of fun. The time from meeting a girl to starting a sexual relationship is less in that form of game than in almost any other, it's very like immediate short-term rewarding. And then also you can get tons and tons of reps. So it is one of the absolute best for learning game. Again, night game is an absolutely robust, wonderful strategy. Highly endorse it. One of my favorites for sure. One thing that people object to in night game is they say that the girls in night game are not as high a quality or not as classy as in day game. And there are definitely girls who are just party girls who hook up a lot and that's what they do, or girls that have drink a lot and have drug problems. These things do occur in night game more than in day game, yes. But there are a lot of perfectly healthy, normal girls that go out for a night. It's very rare you'll meet a healthy, normal girl who doesn't ever go out for a night out with her friends. Right, so you can meet quality girls in night game. I want to dispel that myth, the myth that you can't. You absolutely can. Most of the girls you can meet in day game at some point are also out in night game. I love night game. It has its pros and its cons versus day game, but I do think it's absolutely wonderful. All right, so talking about online game. Online game is the absolute best possible if you just want a huge funnel. Like if you want to sleep with the most girls in like the most efficient way possible, online game is the way to go. And one of the reasons I know this is that at the start of whenever I teach a boot camp and I'm kind of finding out, getting to know my students, one of the questions I always ask is, how many girls you slept with lifetime, how many in the last couple of years? I want to get an idea of where they're at and what their past experience has been. And occasionally I'll get guys on program and they say like some number in the hundreds. Like I slept with hundreds of girls lifetime. So occasionally I will get guys that slept with hundreds of girls lifetime from cold approach and they just want to be world class at cold approach. That happens. But most of the time, if somebody I meet has slept with 100 or more girls, I can bet money with huge odds in my favor that the way they did it is from online game. Because if you get good at online game, it does become this almost passive income source where the girls are just funneled naturally into basically having sex with you, starting relationships with you. Online game is hyper efficient if you do it well. If you do it badly, it can be the most frustrating of all game. Most guys who do online game get almost no matches. The matches they do get are terrible. Then they message them and they lose them immediately in the messaging because they also suck at messaging. So for most guys, online dating is one of the absolute most frustrating forms of game. The barrier to getting success in online dating is quite high, to getting any success. But once you're able to get some success, that success is incredibly repeatable because you have the same profile that worked, the same photos that worked, right? You spend all this time building this profile, building these photos, but once you have them, right? They're working for you in the background forever. Not literally forever, but until the next time you need to update them or until they kind of go out of style or the app changes or whatever, but they work for a long period of time. And then you can even copy and paste the same messages or fundamentally the same messages that worked as well. So once you find something that worked, you can just kind of put it on autopilot and keep repeating what's worked before. Whereas in a cold approach or day game or night game setting, you're going to have to start from scratch with every single girl and every single interaction is going to be unique, right? So the hurdle to getting your first bit of success in online is very high. Once you're getting that success, it does really snowball exponentially and it gets much easier. So the guys who crush it online do crush it a lot for numbers, as in sleeping with a lot of girls. That said, as much as online is insanely good for numbers, there are some downsides to it. The major downsides to online are that the girls' profiles are not always reliable in terms of telling you what you're actually going to meet, right? So I automatically, when I meet a girl in online dating, I give her about a 1.5 point curve. So if the girl looks like a 9 on her profile, she's probably about a 7.5 in terms of physical appearance. If she looks like a 7, she's probably about a 5.5, right? More so if the photos are taken at odd angles or there's not a variety of photos. But in general, you should assume that the photos you're getting are the best photos that that girl has ever taken in her entire life. So oftentimes you're going to show up on the date and you'll be a little bit disappointed. Now, my solution for this is to make sure that even if I'm a little disappointed, I'll still be happy, right? So if the girl looks like at least like a 9, 9.5 in her profile, well, I assume she's going to show up and be at least like, at least an 8 or something like that when she shows up live, which means she's going to be still very, very cute, right? The other thing is to make sure that, I like to have a phone call before I meet up with a girl on a date to make sure that we have good personality and good chemistry talking, so that if a girl shows up and she's a 7.5, at least she's a 7.5 that I really like talking to, right? And so there's a little bit mitigating that. But the problem with online dating is that most of the absolute hottest girls don't have to use it. Most of the hottest girls are meeting and being approached by enough guys that they just don't go online that much. Online has a lot of really cute girls, a lot of beautiful girls, but the absolute like supermodel girls are probably not on there very often. And when they are on there, they're on there quickly and then back off, etc. So again, you'll get a lot of cute girls from online, some hot girls, but the absolute hottest girls, not as much. And even to some extent, the girls who are just most in demand for other reasons don't have as much incentive to be online. So you do have to curate and screen pretty hard if you want to get the best girls from online, and you may have to go on a lot of dates, which, how I said, like, online dating is very time efficient for meeting a lot of girls. It might not be the most time efficient for meeting the absolute hottest and best girls, because say that you see a girl in a cold approach environment. Number one, you know immediately what she looks like, and then you can talk to her for 5 minutes and know if you like her personality. Whereas online, you do all this messaging back and forth, you get her on the date, you set aside an evening for her, you show up and then she doesn't look like her photos, and now you've wasted a significant amount more time to find out that girl's not right for you. Or even you meet a hot girl and find out her personality is not the best, you've committed to an evening with her, and so you've spent a lot more time, a lot more investment in that to find out and to screen that that's the girl you don't like. So that's kind of the downside of online game, is that it's really, really good for getting a lot of experience at dates and closing in the last part of game. In fact, when guys are learning cold approach, if they have issues with the date part of cold approach, oftentimes I'll suggest they do online dating just to get a ton of date practice, reps and reps and reps of dates until they master that part of game. But the problem is that while it's very time efficient for getting cute girls, it may not be the most time efficient for getting the hottest girls. And a lot of the guys that come to me who have slept with hundreds of girls online, that's their story, is like, I slept with a lot of cute girls, but I'm really not meeting the girls that I really, really want, like the top girls. And so that's why they come and they want to learn, more of the cold approach skills at that point. The other problem with online dating, not that this is a direct problem, is that it is a little bit psychologically unappealing as a man to be going on dates with girls on a regular basis, and then a really hot girl sits down with you at a coffee shop and you're tongue-tied and feel impotent and don't know how to say hi to her, and you kind of feel like a loser as a man, right? So that's not the best either if that's your only exclusive funnel. But I do think online dating is an incredibly good funnel. I do recommend that most guys have it going on in the background, have it going on as a passive source of getting some extra leads for abundance, for practice, and then they can screen hard to decide whether they actually want to go on dates with that abundance of leads that are coming through. And hopefully through that, they can actually get and meet some of the most attractive girls, that the few that are actually out there, the few that are on the sites, that are the tip top. And in the meantime, if you're ever in a dry spell, nothing wrong with having, 10 different girls message you during the day for your confidence and to keep you in practice, that kind of stuff. So those are the traditional funnels that I often teach and I often talk to you guys about, and I'm a huge fan of all three of those funnels. I want to talk about one other funnel that I actually do talk about occasionally, but not as often, because I'm not as big a fan of it, but I still think it's great, and I still think you should learn it and do it to some extent. And that is social circle game. Now, what is social circle game? Social circle game means different things to different people. To a lot of people, just doing the everyman funnel, where you just meet people at school, meet people at work, that kind of stuff, is essentially social circle game, right? You're just, you're taking what's in your natural social circle. That's really the poor form of social circle game. That's the low end form of it, but it is social circle game. And if you got good at game through other means, like for example, cold approach, or doing online dates, to the point where you've gotten a lot of practice, you've become very attractive with women, and then you do meet girls in a normal everyman social circle, as I mentioned before, you would start doing well. Go back to the story I told where at the casino, not trying at all, I slept with most of the hottest girls at the casino just by pure accident. So that does work. But when I'm talking about social circle game here, what I'm talking about is intentional social circle game where you're trying to create an advantage for yourself. You're trying to create a scenario where girls are being funneled to you in large numbers, and also in a way where you have some social value baked in. So this kind of social circle game is things like if you were to start promoting parties, like if you were to start hosting parties and then start trying to invite hot girls to those parties, that would be a form of this kind of social circle game. Or let's say that you specifically became a dance instructor in order to attract a lot of dancers into your life because you like girls that dance. And so you're making, in this case, a big lifestyle commitment or a big time commitment, and possibly even a financial commitment in order to get girls into your life. Another version of this would be working in nightlife or working in an industry like becoming a promoter, becoming a bartender. These would be examples of social circle game in this way as well, where you're intentionally trying to bring girls into your life in a very positive funnel and where there's social proof. Where like another version of this is kind of like in between social circle and fame game in a way, but becoming a DJ would be another version of where you're trying to get a lot of social proof and you're doing something very explicit for it. That borders on fame game, which we can talk about as a final funnel in a minute. But these are examples of social circle game. And the major benefit of social circle game is that when you meet women in social circle game, you're meeting them with maximum advantage, right? We talked about the two factors. How many women can you meet? I guess it's three. How many women can you meet? What is the quality of those women? I kind of baked those in together. And then what advantage do you have with the women you meet? And so in the cold approach funnels, like day game, night game, you're meeting tons and tons of women, high quality women, but your advantage is not very high. You're at a neutral advantage in the fact you have to cold approach, maybe even at a slight negative, right? So that part's a little hard. In social circle, you're meeting girls in advantage. They're meeting you through a friend of a friend, through an introduction, through already seeing your social media beforehand, through you being the host of the party. So you're going to get approached to some extent. And when girls meet you, they're automatically going to have a favorable reaction to you. And they're automatically going to feel like they need to make a good impression with you, or they should be polite to you or something like that. So that's very beneficial. And so obviously you can see the appeal of social circle game. And I'm not going to say there isn't a lot of appeal. There is a lot of appeal to it. But there are some problems with it. Problem number one with social circle game is that you can't date that many girls in it because you burn the social circle, right? So you spend all this time and energy and money potentially building up the social circle. You meet one girl from it, and then now you're dating her, and you have to keep up the social circle and keep the time and money and energy going in order to be congruent with who you were when you met her. And then on top of it, you can't meet any other girls from it because you're busy dating her. And if you're dating multiple girls, they're going to see you and think you're cheating. It's going to ruin your reputation. It's going to be a problem for you overall. So this is a huge, big problem for you. So that's first problem with social circle is that once you're dating a girl from social circle, you can't date any more from that social circle. And you have to keep the social circle up, because if while you're dating this girl, you stop maintaining the social circle, then if and when you break up, you have to rebuild that entire thing from scratch, right? So you're building, it's almost like building an entire business to make one sale. And then you have to keep the business running just in case you ever have to make a future sale. Or you start the business over each time you want to make a sale. So the amount of groundwork involved is really, really big for the eventual result. And so that can be a problem potentially. Now, you could obviously date a girl briefly, move on, date another girl, but you have to date them one at a time within the social circle for the most part. So that's a problem. Second major problem with a social circle is this. Even if you're meeting a girl on favorable terms, if you don't have good game, it's still not going to help you, right? So one example of a social circle in like the college version of a social circle would be joining a fraternity. And a lot of guys sleep with tons of girls by joining fraternities. Like when I was in college, I knew some guys who slept with hundreds of women because they joined the fraternity. They were cool guys, they had game, and they slept with a lot of hot girls. I also knew guys in fraternities who were still virgins, right? So they joined the fraternity, they pledged, they spent all this time doing activities. They, had a very unhealthy lifestyle with lots of drinking. They went to all these parties and they never hooked up with any girls because while there were girls around them all the time, they just had shitty game and didn't know how to convert that. Or maybe some of the guys weren't virgins, but they slept with very, very few girls. And only the girls, they slept with the ugliest girls in the sororities, the only few that would have them. Even if you do meet girls on favorable terms, that only gets your foot in the door. You still have to actually walk through that door and have game and follow through. And most of the guys who I know who are good at social circle, they are good at social circle because in large part they learned these other funnels first, right? I don't want to name any names, but some of like the biggest names in social circle education, or in guys that you might be like, oh God, that guy does so well with social circle, they learned cold approach first. And then they came to social circle already having good game, and therefore were able to convert from the social circle. It's really, really sad to spend all this time and energy and effort meeting girls on favorable terms and then still not be able to convert. That's really, really sad. Or for example, I've had some of my clients who are extremely wealthy and are able to put themselves in very favorable circumstances, are able to basically have girls, lining up to come party with them because of the opulence of their parties, and then they can't actually pull from those parties despite having been the host of this insane party. And that's really, really sad and really, really rough. So that's another huge problem with Social Circle, is it doesn't solve everything. It's a great addition if you have the game, because it's nice to meet girls in favorable terms. Here's the other thing, your social circle is only as good as the women it attracts. So if you have a social circle, a group of people where you are the alpha male, ideally, and you are the host of the parties, and then the girls who come to those parties are all 7s and 8s, well, if a 10 came to that party, you could attract her and it'd be great. But if she doesn't come to the party, you can only attract what's actually in the social circle. And there are lots of guys trying to compete to attract these girls, including other higher end social circles, including nightclubs, including celebrities that are trying to attract the same girls you're trying to attract with social circle. So it's a very competitive market. And again, the barrier of entry is very, very high. If done well, social circle can get insane results, but there's a lot of effort into it. Final thing with social circle, and this is for me because I'm a natural introvert, I personally, the times that I've messed around with it or done it a little bit, I personally hate it. Because in social circle, you have to be on good terms with the other people in that social circle. And that means not just the ones you like. It means the ones you don't like as well. And it means you have to put in time and effort to maintain relationships, even if those aren't the relationships you even want or need. And so for me, I've never personally had the patience for it. If I were a natural extrovert and I liked the things that were building the social circle itself, then I would do it. So for example, if my social circle was around throwing parties, and I just really liked throwing parties for their own sake, yes, I would absolutely have a social circle around throwing parties because I would enjoy the process and also the end result. Or if I loved to dance and my social circle was around, throwing dance events and having girls to dance with and stuff like that, that's great because I actually enjoyed the process and I get to reap the benefits. And so there's no downside and tons of upside. So that's my actual recommendation to you with regards to social circle. I think it's absolutely great to do. If and only if, number one, you actually have the game to convert, and number two, you actually enjoy the process to some extent. If the process is burdenful and feels like work to you, it's not going to work very well. And in fact, well, number one, you're going to hate it. And number two, it's going to come across that you hate it. It's going to come across you don't like doing it, and you'll do it less well, and you probably won't even get results from it. So with social circle, my answer is if and only if. It can be one of the most powerful forms of game, if and only if. And then finally, we have Fame Game. And Fame Game's awesome. Fame Game is absolutely the best. If you can have groupies, people that see you from far away, people that like you before they ever see you, or people that where you meet a girl and then she gets your social media, finds out you're famous, and suddenly what was a nothing approach, suddenly the girl is chasing you to the ends of the earth. That's absolutely wonderful. That's insane. That's amazing. Only problem with Fame Game is it's very hard. There are lots and lots and lots of guys trying to be famous, and most fail. For every one guy I know who succeeds at getting famous for game, I know 100 who failed, right? And this is more extreme. Like for every guy who tries to be an A-list Hollywood celebrity, there's thousands who failed. For every guy who tries to be a superstar world-class athlete, there are thousands and thousands who have failed. For every guy who tries to be a successful DJ, there are at least hundreds who have failed, maybe in the thousands as well for that, right? So, or like a successful musician, like performing musician, famous, there are tons who have failed. Fortunately, with the musician thing, even being a failing musician adds a little bit of cachet to you, and hopefully you enjoy the music for its own sake as well. And hopefully with these other things, hopefully if you're going to be an actor, you enjoy the acting. Hopefully if you're going to be an athlete, you enjoy being an athlete, and that's what makes it worthwhile for you. And then the success is just the cherry on the top. But if you're trying to get famous, it will work if you succeed at it. But most guys just won't succeed. And even with fame, you do have to be careful because if you don't have the game on the back end, the girls will get turned off and or you'll get a lot of gold diggers. So even there are some issues. But the main problem with Fame Game is it's just fucking hard to get famous, right? The whole world is trying to be famous. It's a very, very high bar to achieve. So first of all, what should you do in terms of funnels if you're an absolute beginner? If I was an absolute beginner, what I would recommend, the most important thing for you right now is get out and talk to lots of women. So whether you choose day game or night game, absolutely go do some cold approach. Get a lot of reps, start getting some success, and measure yourself not on how many girls you sleep with just yet. Measure yourself on, are your interactions getting better? If your interactions are getting consistently better, then be happy about that. The other thing you should do as a beginner is you absolutely should set up an online dating profile and work some amount of time to try and get it good. Try and get the best photos that have ever been taken of you, and then get some prompts. If you want, you can go find my YouTube video and steal my prompts from my online profile if you want, or you can get Online Dating Academy or Digital Black Belt, get some ideas from there if you want to. But get a half decent profile, steal it if you have to, right? Steal the content of the profile if you have to, get some good photos, and start getting at least some matches so you get some practice at messaging and getting dates. Number one, it's very likely you will start getting laid from online, maybe before you even get laid from your cold approach. So that could be useful to you in terms of building momentum. But also, you're going to get practice at these late stages of game. Because one of the issues with learning cold approach first is cold approach is like a video game where you have to beat level 1 before you can play level 2. Then you beat level 2, you play level 3. If you're not consistently beating level 1, it's hard to practice level 5. Whereas with online game, you get to go straight to level 5, i.e. showing up for a date, and learn level 5. And so if you're learning from level 5 onward and also from level 1 up to level 5, your overall time to progress in game will probably be less. So getting that date practice you can get right away from online game is going to be useful too as well. But that's what I would absolutely recommend for you in terms of that. If you're intermediate, well, now what that means to me is that you now are able, through volume of approaches, to get some results. Like if you do enough approaches, you will meet girls, you will get dates, you will sleep with girls, you will be able to start relationships. It's just a big numbers game. If you're intermediate, what I would suggest you do is start specializing. Figure out what you're best at within hopefully the 3 types of approaches you were doing as a beginner, and focus in primarily on what you're best at. If what you're best at is online game, still do about half your time doing cold approach, but focus in on day game or night game. If you're way better at night game than day game, do like 80 to 90% night game and 10% day game, 10 to 20% day game. If you're better at day game, flip it around. Do mostly what you're best at, but not 100%. Because if you do only what you're best at, you're going to miss some lessons. So if you're best at day game and you do only day game, you're probably not going to ever learn how to do groups because they're intimidating and they're less bang for their buck in day game. And then you're going to see your absolute 10 in a group of girls in the daytime and be like, oh shit, I can't approach her. Whereas had you been working on night game, you'd be able to do that approach. So you want to learn those things. Also, you're going to learn a lot more how to actually take the girl home at the end of the night from night game, which is going to help you tremendously in your day game when you actually take girls on dates and then have to take them home from the date. So I do recommend doing a bit of all of them, but really start to specialize and really start to work on whatever gets your numbers game cutting down the fastest. Whatever makes the biggest dent in the numbers game, that makes you the most time efficient for getting results is what you should mostly focus on, while still keeping a variety of all of those 3. If you're advanced, now you get to really decide what type of game you want, right? And here I'd recommend specializing even further. You could even cut out certain types of game if you want to in full, although I still don't recommend it. I just recommend, really minimizing them. So I still would recommend doing some day game, night game, and online to some degree, but really specialize. And once you're advanced, if you want to start working on some social circle game or some gimmicky types things like setting up your lifestyle to have better game, those kind of things matter. I would really work on getting great logistics once you're advanced. Right? I know some students of mine have literally had an apartment above a nightclub, things like that, or across the street from the hottest nightclub in town. These sort of external factors are going to start to be a huge difference in your results once you're advanced. When you're a beginner or intermediate, your results were mainly going to come down to, can you convert the leads you have? Are you able to take the girls who like you and actually succeed with them? When you start getting more advanced, you're going to really start to see the benefits of attracting the exact caliber and type of girl you want into your life. You're going to see the benefits of good logistics, those type of things. So that's where I suggest specializing. And once you're at an advanced level, that's when I would recommend trying these things like a social circle game, or trying these things like partnering with a friend who's running a nightclub or a modeling agency and using that stuff to supercharge your results. But I don't recommend doing that until you're already good at game. You want to have the fundamental skill set of at least a higher intermediate before you really want to be doing those kind of things, in my opinion. But once you're advanced, there actually does start to be a lot of benefit to those kind of things. For getting the hottest girls, number one, getting advanced is going to help you. And if you're advanced at cold approach, you can get the hottest girls from cold approach. You absolutely can. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. But again, as I mentioned, when you're advanced, because of this desire to get the hottest girls or to get the exact type of girl you want, that's when starting to come up with social circle game or specializing around an event. I mean, let's say you really, really like athletic girls. Well, then coming up with like some way that you're involved in sports might make sense, right? Maybe you're a sponsor for the Olympics or some shit like that. Who knows? But there are ways that you can start to become much more selective and much more surgical about the types of girls you're meeting at that point. And so I would say getting the hottest girls, I would change that to getting the most desirable girls to you. Because it may not even matter. You may not want like the absolute like 10s that look like porn stars and supermodels. You may want the really hot girls who are also successful in business, and then you start tailoring your approach. You start focusing a lot more on the finding aspect, where to find the girls you're really into. That starts to be a big factor in your game. And then getting quality relationships or marriage material. Honestly, my answer for that is don't change much. Do all the same stuff you would to get an abundance of girls you really like. And then because you have that abundance, you can be more selective. So that's my take on funnels after 25 years of experience. Obviously, there's a lot of truth and experience going in there, but also some of it's personal, right? And with funnels, it's very important to have a strategy that works. It's also very important to have a strategy that works for you. So what is the right funnel? I've given you the pros and cons and why certain funnels are good and bad overall. But end of the day, what is the best funnel? The best funnel is the one that works for you. And I recommend trying them all out to some extent, finding what works for you and using it. And I can pretty much guarantee that when you do that process, you're going to come to a lot of the same conclusions I have. So in giving you this information, hopefully I'm shortcutting that process for you. But yeah, try them out, see what works for you. Just make sure that whatever funnel you have is actually a viable one and not a limited one. If you're doing the everyman funnel, the typical guy funnel, please, please, please upgrade that immediately. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe, and also feel free to share your thoughts on what funnels you're doing and how they're working out for you in the comments. See you next time.